everybody. I'm Ina, the community manager of Safe Place, and may I just say that I am so honored to be the one speaking to you today, and I am so thankful to be part and proud also to be part of this humble group who not only supports people with mental health concerns in the psychosocial aspect, but also in the spiritual aspect. It's not every day. It's not every day that you stumble upon a mental health support group na nag-emphasize ng faith and at the same time psychological healing. So, to start, what is resilience for you and how would you define it? Other terms of resilience are adaptability, flexibility, endurance, and strength of character. So, there are two types, or what I would like to call the facets of resilience. Psychological resilience, or the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or even significant sources of stress. So it puts emphasis on character and personality. Spiritual resilience or spiritual fortitude is the confidence that someone has sufficient spiritual resources to face and grow in the face of a stressor. It involves having spiritual endurance, withstanding and persevering in difficult times. Spiritual enterprise, maintaining integrity during adversity, and the hope for finding a renewed sense of purpose and meaning following adversity. So, ang spiritual resilience naman, meaning may enough spiritual hugot. Kumbaga, yung faith mo produces perseverance, produces hope, a renewed sense of purpose after being in an adversity. So it puts emphasis on purpose and meaning of life. What is resiliency for you? Diba tanongin kita, how would you define it? What is it really? Is it keeping your composure or is it showing your vulnerability? We can define resilience in many different ways. But here is the unchanging truth. No one is strong all the time. Again, no one is strong all the time. A perfect illustration for this is none other than Jesus himself, a God and the begotten Son of God. Having experienced the human nature, he was not exempted from physical, mental, and emotional torment. And one of the misconceptions na pwede nating mabuo sa utak natin is that God is distinct from human nature. Oh, while it is true that He is God, free of any sin, of afflictions, in being the source of healing Himself, of all things good, He also demonstrated through Christ that He relates with the human suffering. First example is when He experienced stress, anxiety, and despair. And being in agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. So some of the nerves in his head ruptured because of severe stress. If you are going to look that up in Google, you would see that there are a lot of researches made by scientists about God's physical condition or Jesus' physical condition. So it is a rare condition where when one undergoes a severe stress, nag-rupture na, pumuputok na yung nerves sa ulo which results in sweating blood or kahalo na ng sweat mo yung dugo galing sa pumutok na ugat. Next is my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. So even him experienced great sorrow, great sadness, grief to the point of death. Next, he felt abandoned and alone at the cross, and he cried out to God. And Christ himself cried out in despair on the cross in Matthew 27, my God, why have you forsaken me?" It echoes a psalm of lament, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish? Second, Jesus experienced betrayal when Judas agreed to hand Jesus over to the people in the government for the 30 pieces of silver. Second, when Peter denied him, "Truly I tell you, this very night before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times." And worse is that Jesus knew that they would betray him. Di ba? Ang sakit nun. The people who are close to you, your disciples, will betray you, will disown you. Next is, then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look, now you have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" "He is worthy of death," they answered. Then they spit in his face and struck him with their fists. Others slapped him, and the chief priests and the people mocked Jesus and plotted against Jesus. So the people, his very own people, put him to death, and even the chief priests, because Jesus was a great threat to them, they wanted Jesus to be killed. So, dinuraan siya, sinampal, sinuntok in public. Third is grief or sorrow. Jesus wept. That is the shortest Bible verse, John 11:35, when Jesus cried because of Lazarus' death, his friend. Fourth is exhaustion or kapaguran. In many occasions, Jesus was shown in the Bible as a person far from our usual perception of being a godly one. So imagine a God um, experiencing feeling deeply troubled, tired, hungry, thirsty, and being tempted. Now he had to go through Samaria, so he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about noon, so Jesus got tired because tanghaling tapat at naglalakad sila. They were tired from the journey, and his disciples um, bumili ng food. And then he asked the Samaritan woman to give him a, a drink from the well. Next is, after fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. The tempter came to him and said, "If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread." So even Jesus was not exempted from temptation, from the devil's lies. And he was hungry that time, pero dilabanan niya. So if you are going to read the Bible, there are several accounts where even the greatest prophets or upright men, blameless men, righteous, or people who were God's instruments, like Elijah, Job, and David, experienced a great testing. So where am I going with this? I want to tell you, when you have felt the overwhelming darkness overcome your whole being, that moment, in the same room, God heard you and God saw you. He saw how broken you are and how you are always in need of peace and healing. When you were sinning, He saw how crooked you are as a person and how you are in need of a God that saves. He aches for you and He aches with you. So where was God, you may ask, kung nandoon siya sa sitwasyon na yun? What was He doing? Or kung andito siya, what is He doing? Dear friend, God was beside you and He is there crying with you. He is there feeling your pain because He knows what pain is. He is there because He knows you and He knows you will be led into that moment. He was with you, He is with you, and He will always be with you. Don't let the world blind you and plant a doubt in you. As He promised, when you go through deep waters, I will be with you. When you go through rivers of difficulty, you will not drown. When you walk through the fire of oppression, you will not be burned up. The flames will not consume you, for I am the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. How comforting it is that even in the midst of suffering, God promised us that He will be there in the deep waters, through rivers of difficulty, through the fire of oppression. He will be there for you. And He didn't promise a perfect life for us. Even Him was not exempted from this world's suffering. Sabi niya nga, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart. Napagtagumpayan ko na yan. I have overcome the world, and what you are feeling right now, I already felt that, and I conquered it through the cross. You are here today because it's not a mere coincidence that you woke up today. God has a purpose for your pain. So with everything that I have said, resilience, therefore, is not the ability to remain unbreakable, but the ability to break and arise from brokenness. It is the ability to stand back up, tired and broken, yet strong-willed and all the more persistent. So just remember the one who went through that physical, emotional, and mental torment. He too went through great suffering to the point of death. Even before he walked the road to Calvary, he experienced emotional attacks. When he was betrayed, publicly humiliated, and handed over to the hands of the people who would physically abuse him and kill him. You know, his beard, yung balbas niya, was plucked out of his face. He was stripped naked, hinubaran siya, and the crown of thorns was planted deep in his head. His back was covered with deep wounds from the whipping, and he was stabbed and nailed on the cross. He was killed by the very people he came to save. He was killed by the very people he came to save. Imagine that kind of torment. I-save mo sila, pero sila din yung nanakit sa'yo. But Jesus went on, blood and sweat dripping from his head and all over his aching body. He was overcome with deep sorrow, but he went on. Do you know why? Because that moment when he was carrying the weight of the cross, he was thinking of you, and he still is. He knows your wounds need healing, so he endured the multiple lashes in his back. He knows your brokenness needs mending, so he endured the anguish he felt. He knows your fallen nature needs saving, so he endured the cross. You are greatly loved, so live and overcome. But how do you overcome? I have written some tips here to develop resilience fully. First, know that you are not alone. Do not ever believe the lie that you are alone. And kung mapapansin nyo, our popular culture right now emphasizes on self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency. It teaches us that we are good without the help of other people. It redefines self-love into self-centeredness. And our culture right now doesn't make people feel good about themselves. And it emphasizes on independence. It's not bad to learn about independence. We need that at some point. But overly being independent, it's not helpful for you. So our culture tells us that being independent is equal to being unbothered. Like, wala akong pakialam diyan or wala akong pakialam sa kanya or dito sa sitwasyon na 'to. I will focus on myself. I will focus on my journey. But sometimes it's not always about you, and the world does not revolve for you lang. Most people think that independence saves you from hurt and suffering, but that is not true. Why would God create us as social beings if we are destined to go through life alone? Even God teaches us to be dependent, but not on earthly and temporary things that would ruin us, but on Him. To know that you are not alone because there is help in the community, in your family, in your circle of friends, and most importantly in God. Find the right support system. Nakakatuwa kasi amidst the crisis, there are a lot of institutions, hospitals, and organizations, non-government organizations who are volunteering to give free psychological consultations to people dahil this lockdown really triggered a lot of people with mental health illnesses or people who are um, forced to isolate, like our healthcare workers or other people na experiencing the wrath of COVID-19, or like me na andito lang sa bahay and always thinking where will this end. So lahat tayo naapektuhan mentally ng lockdown na ito. But there is help in the community. There is free help, available help in the community. There is help in your family, in your friends. At kahit hindi mo ma-feel yun, there will always be someone who will understand you, respect you, and believe in your capability to overcome. May isa na maniniwala sa'yo. So stick to the people who can make your bad days a little bit better. People who believe in you and understand your pain. Surround yourself with the right people for you. And more than anything else, place God first. May God be your first resort, not only your last resort. Make Him your first option. Kasi minsan sanay tayo, nalalapit lang tayo sa Kanya kapag nagawa na natin lahat or feeling natin, there's nothing more I can do or wala na, kaya lalapit ka na kay God. No, make Him your first option. Let Him lead you and you will not be disappointed. Ecclesiastes 4:9-12, two people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Likewise, two people lying close together can keep each other warm. But how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. See how the Bible teaches us to find our support system. Sabi niya, three are even better. So, it tells us na we need people in this life. Sometimes, you are the one who needs comforting. And sometimes, you need someone who will fight the battle for you or who will fight the battle with you. Second is cultivate love, forgiveness, and gratitude. Cultivate love, forgiveness, and gratitude. Magnify the good, replace the bad. But sometimes it's hard to replace the bad. So what do? Magnify the good. When you do things out of love, you feel more empowered and fulfilled. Notice that when you sometimes do things out of love, or when you do something that you love, wala kang pakialam kung gaano pa karami ang gagawin mo, kung gaano pa kabigat yan. Hindi mo napapansin because you love what you are doing. and you want more. So learn how to love not only the big things but also the ordinary and seemingly small things in life. Love makes even the most tedious task bearable. So I want to share to you what I have done to bring back my passion for life, because I believe that loving life does not always mean doing big things or doing crazy things, traveling the world solo. And while it is not bad to do those things, we need a little thrill and excitement. But what I'm saying is this: you love life when you learn to love even the ordinary. What makes up a day is the small things. So learn to love every bit of your day. So back in 2014 and 2017, I did this journal. Um, it's based on a worldwide trend. Ito siya. I'm going to share this with you guys. This is personal, but I'm going to share this with you. Um, this journal helped me appreciate life by appreciating the small things in life. I was 21 and I was confused and I was depressed and I had a lot of questions, but this helped me get through it. So, this challenge is called 100 Happy Days, but instead of 100 days, ginawa ko siyang 200 days. Dahil ganun ako katapang. Dahil ganun ko kailangan ng happy days. So, the challenge is that you have to post a photo of something or someone that made you smile or made you happy that day. Pero instead of posting a photo on social media, I wrote a journal entry every day for 200 days, and added to that, I also did one random act of kindness per day. And those random acts of kindness, they're just small gestures of kindness, such as volunteering a house chore, praying for someone, giving myself a break or a me time, appreciating the flower sa sidewalk na nadaan ko, appreciating the weather, ano pa, random act of kindness, helping an elderly woman cross the street, ginawa ko yun. um, Holding the door for a stranger, giving a smile to a stranger, and I received a lot of smiles back. So, basahin ko lang ng konti para malaman nyo kung ano yung point nito. So, by appreciating the small things in life, before doing this, I didn't have the connection that I have now with the Lord. And sabi ko dito, 200 days ago, I don't have the connection that I have now with the divine. I don't even talk about God, though I still believe in Him, but before I was not a disciple. My faith was challenged. My faith was challenged in the course of doing this. And by challenge, it meant doubt, fears, questions, and at some point, maybe even anger. I have gone through it. The past months were hard, but God manifested Himself in different ways. He worked wonders during those days, though I'm not aware about it at the time. Now I know why it's called faith. It happens when you believe. But there were times when I really had doubts and questions, but I still received my miracle of the day. So, your bad days, your bad circumstance won't stop God from giving you your miracle of the day. So, right now, I urge you to see what is your miracle of the day. It may be big, it may be small, but a miracle is a miracle, and it is from God. I don't know what or how to explain, because really it's inexplicable. And some days, for instance, when I'm suddenly hit by the feeling of being alone, when I I have no one to talk to. Just minutes after, someone will pop out on Messenger, or my phone will receive a message, and sometimes it rings and I would find that someone misses me or simply just wants to talk to me. Other days, it's a tagged message on a quote about friendship, faith, and strength, a sign that I have people who care about me. I am broke these past months because I'm still jobless, but I was able to satisfy my cravings. I could still eat out and sometimes receive money or loan. Then there were the more spiritual things like the sudden feeling of peace and warmth, a light air that surrounded me, and a change of mood in just a matter of seconds. And sometimes at night when I lay in bed just before I close my eyes, I still find all of it amazing. So I wrote this after doing the 200 days journal entries, and ayun, I experience simple things and I also experience inexplicable things. Like when I am feeling tired, you know how that feels. Like you don't want to go on anymore. I felt myself breaking down. And there were nights when I would just feel being hopeless. And you know how that feels. You know how deep that darkness is. And alam ko mabigat yung pakiramdam mo and feeling ang bigat din ng ng paligid mo. But then at night sometimes I would feel a light air surround me, or I would feel a sudden feeling of inner peace, like I'm crying seconds before that. And after crying I would feel a light air, like I felt it, a light air surrounding me, and I was overcome with inner peace. And after that, makakatulog na ako. And that air was light and warm. So there's been a change in me, a major one, and I'm happy to have fallen into the habit of saying thank you. I learned that practicing gratefulness or gratitude is a way to a happy heart. You can't be happy if you are not grateful for all the things you have, and when you have a grateful heart, you can't be anxious because the two cannot coexist together. So it's either you're grateful, you're happy, or you're anxious, or you're sad. Finally, I did not only find happiness in 200 days out of the messy and big question mark that I am. I did also find myself. So my learnings, my one big miracle is made up of the miracles of friendship, family, simple joys that presented themselves in my surroundings, and most of all as love. And God is love. Love is the glue that binds them all to create the big picture, which is me, a better version of me. Yeah. So I'm not encouraging you to do the same, but I'm encouraging you to appreciate the small things in life, like the small details. Appreciate every sip of your coffee. Appreciate the weather. Appreciate the flowers around you, the plants, the trees. Appreciate um, the stranger giving you a smile, or appreciate your food. Appreciate conversations with your friends. So, ayun, when you do things out of love, you don't feel tired. Instead, you do better. And when you love, it leads you to forgive. When you forgive, you teach others to do the same. When you show gratitude even in the smallest of things, you bring joy to life and you show others how to live. Remember, what you give power to has power over you. So what do you choose to grow? Is it hate, sadness, regret, problems, or do you focus more on what you can still do or change? Do you grow hope, gratitude, love, and forgiveness? So sometimes we have to ask those questions to ourselves. Third, it's not your fault. Your traumas, your depression, your anxiety, whatever illness you have, or whatever difficult past that you have, it's not your fault. And it is hard to focus on good things when you are going through a great deal of suffering. So I'm not telling you to look at the bright side or to think happy thoughts or just be positive. Okay lang yan. No, I won't tell you that when in fact you are far from feeling okay. Because it is certainly not okay to be contemplating about taking your own life. It's not okay to feel anxious all the time. It's not okay to feel that sense of dread all the time. It's not okay to be used and to be abused. Losing someone is not okay. Feeling hopeless and worthless is not okay. So here's what I would like to tell you instead, and here's what you need to know. It's definitely okay not to be okay, and it's not your fault. And I think it's great that you still choose to get up and face the world. Thank you for being strong. 2 Corinthians 12:7-10. Therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. So, this implies that when you are weak, that is when God can demonstrate His strength. So delight in your weaknesses. I know it's hard for most of us na paano ko ba gagawing pasasalamat itong mabigat na dinadala ko. But when you focus on God, you will know and you will feel that yes, your strength is limited. But you have Jesus. You have the source of unlimited strength. So choose to be grateful even in crisis, even in the darkest moments of your life. And you know what I have learned here in this journal that I made is that no matter how bad your day is, there will always be something to be grateful for. There is always something to smile about. Proven and tested, guys. Pwede mo sabihin ang sama-sama ng week ko, ang sama-sama ng araw ko. Kasi nakafocus ka sa nangyari sa yung masama, or nakafocus ka about how bad your day went. But kapag binalikan mo yung buong araw mo, there will always be someone or something that would make you smile, that would make you grateful. So, ayun, it's hard to delight in your weaknesses, but it's not impossible to remain strong. It's not impossible to find resilience amidst crisis. When you have God, everything is possible. You can move mountains. Our suffering is not from God. It is the job of our enemy to steal, kill, and destroy. Because God only gives good things, but sometimes He allows suffering, a thorn in the flesh, for us to remember that we as human beings are limited. We have our limitations. If life is always rainbows and sunshine, we would think that we are okay without God. We would think that we are okay. We don't need salvation. We don't need saving. But that's not life. The reality of life tells us we cannot control everything. This pandemic shows us that no one is exempted from suffering. It shows us how small we are in this universe we are part of. We can immerse ourselves in an illusory belief that we are capable of everything, of anything. But this collective experience of suffering puts us to a test of how far we can really go without holding on to faith. We are reminded once again to believe in the unknown and the future, to trust the unknown, to humble ourselves, and remember that we are not always in control. No matter how successful you are, well off, or intelligent you are, there are some things in your life that only God can do. So, going back to our givers, it is in our weakness where God can fully demonstrate His strength. It is in our weakness where God can fully demonstrate His weakness. Remember that. It is in our weakness where we learn to surrender our heavy baggage. It is in our weakness where we learn to pause, to rest. It is in our weakness where we encounter the strength that we never knew we had. It is in our weakness where we get to know God as a Savior. Sabi niya, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Fourth, it's okay to ask why. Do you know Job in the Bible? Most of you do. But for those who are not really familiar with his story in the Bible, Job is a wealthy man. He is rich. He has a lot of possessions. He has servants. He has 10 children. But in one day, in just a course of the day, life changed for Job. And all his possessions, his belongings, including his servants and his 10 children, were lost. They died because of a natural catastrophe and because of the invaders in his place. And his struggles didn't end there. He acquired a skin disease so bad that his friends struggled to recognize him when they visited him. And with all this happening, Job resorted to cursing the day of his birth. He had a lot of questions because he was confused. Naghahanap siya ng sagot, hindi niya maintindihan kung bakit nangyari yun sa kanya. At sinumpa niya yung araw na pinanganak siya. Iniisip niya, patakot pinanganak. Sana namatay na lang ako. Sana hindi na ako dinala sa mundo ko hindi ako pinanganak ng nanay ko. And he accused God of being unfair. Sabi niya, unfair ni Lord. Why would the people, the innocent ones, the people who are blameless, who do good things, suffer, and while the wicked people prosper? So he was full of anger, of sadness, of confusion. Clearly, he was confused because he is finding answers to all these happenings. So he demanded God to speak to him and to explain what was happening. And then a friend came and told him that sometimes our suffering are God's instrument to warn people to avoid future sin and to use pain and suffering to build character. Then when God shown himself through a whirlwind, sa hangin, God showed Job the answer. Job saw how big and complicated the universe is, implying that Job's perspective is only a tiny portion of the universe. So what he thinks about God, his experience, his view, his perspective was so small compared to the vast universe. So, yung alam niya ay napakaliit lang, isang tundok lang, compared sa wisdom ni God. For him to accuse God of being unjust. And right then and there, he understood that the universe, the world, is complex. It's not always black and white. So, God revealed his answers to Job, and he responded with an apology, saying sorry for all his accusations about God. He showed himself, presented himself before God with humility, and he learned to trust. At the end, God honored his struggle, his suffering, and his honesty about his emotions. And God was amazed because even though he was going through that crisis, he still um, went to God. He still asked God for questions. Oops. He still asked God for questions. And yun yung gusto ni Lord na even though you are suffering, you don't have to hide. Ask Him questions. Show Him your vulnerabilities. Present before God your weaknesses, your struggles. That's what God wants. Then God restored everything that was lost, including Job's health, his wealth, his possessions, doubled, and then He gave Job a long life. So, key verse, Job 10:19-22. Why then did you bring me out of the womb? I wish I had died before any eyes saw me. If only I had never come into being, or had been carried straight from the womb to the grave. Are not my few days almost over? Turn away from me so I can have a moment's job before I go to the place of no return, to the land of gloom and utter darkness, to the land of the deepest night, of utter darkness and disorder, where even the light is like darkness. So even him cried out in despair na sana hindi na siya pinanganak, and sana dalhin na siya sa mundo ng mga patay. So, with this, again, I would like to remind you that it's okay to ask why. It is natural for us to seek answers. But we also have to know that the universe is complex. The world is beautiful, but it is not perfect. It is not perfect because this is not heaven yet. It is not free of danger, of suffering and pain, but here is the comforting fact. God knows your pain. God knows you are going through the fire, but you are not alone. Even Jesus, God himself, asked why. He cried out in despair and asked the Father, my God, why have you forsaken me? So it's okay to have questions, but you must also know how to surrender and trust. You must humble yourself. Job and Jesus had questions, but they learned to surrender to God's will. They learned to trust God, and in return, God rewarded them. Life is not always about you, and there is always more beyond of what you see. As humans, we are so limited with what we see. Our understanding is limited. Kung kaya natin gawin is so limited. But you don't have to let your limitations trap you into thinking that you will never move forward. Kasi minsan naisip mo, kung ano lang yung nakikita mo, feeling mo hanggang yan ka. Ito lang yung nakikita mo. And at the end of the horizon, wala na. But there is more beyond of what you can see. And every time you open your eyes, God leads you closer to your purpose. Every day is a step forward, even though you don't feel it. But God's ways are different than ours. His wisdom is unfathomable for us humans. So learn to trust God. When you go through the storm, when you go through the fire, He is there. And He has prepared the way for you. You will not go through the battle unarmed. He knows what you will need. He knows the people na matutulungan ka. He gave you the people to give you a support system in your trying times. In the midst of your crisis, there are people God gave you para ma-realize mo na you are not alone. He knows that your battle is making you stronger and resilient. So hold on to the good things. Hold on to hope. Hold on to love. Know that you are not alone. Hold on to forgiveness. Hold on to gratitude. Hold on to God. Embrace healing. Again, resilience is not the ability to remain unbreakable, but the ability to break and arise from brokenness. It is the ability to stand back up, tired and broken, yet strong-willed and all the more persistent. Most importantly, resilience is placing your hope and trust in God. So that's all. I hope you learned something new tonight and sana pagising nyo bukas ay maging parte ng buhay nyo ang pag-cultivate ng love, ng forgiveness, ng hope, ng gratitude. I pray that tomorrow you will wake up with a renewed sense of purpose and hope. That's all. Again, thank you for being here tonight. I hope to see you again in the next Fridays. And stay tuned kasi marami pa tayong pag-uusapan na new things, exciting things, relevant and timely things. Okay? Thank you and have a good night, everyone.
Yan.
Ayun. Thank you for sharing, Miss Ina. Yan. So, okay, bigla sinaglabasan, ha? Hindi pa kala nila tapos na.
Kala tapos na.
So, yun. Okay lang, okay lang. So, sige, for our application, siguro I'll be asking Pau for that. Pau, ano yun na natin? Ano yung ating application for question for application? Again?
Doon sa word na narinig natin, ano yung naging impact sa atin? Meron bang gustong mag-share kung ano yung naging impact nung narinig nating word from Miss Ina? Anyone from the group?
Ano yun?
May umubo na.
May naput.
Ano yung take out natin sa gabing ito? Mula dun sa narinig nating very powerful word about resilience. Yeah. Naglalabasan na sila. Impact or take out natin for this week.
Anyone? Siguro pwedeng yung members, pwede kayo mag-share. Kahit small lang. Hindi naman siguro yung lang, yung tamang sharing lang about what you can learn dun sa topic nating resilient. Anyone?
Nyari, parang kasi
Sige na sila na baka nahihiya sila. Kailangan ata natin magtawag. Joke lang. Okay lang yan. Siguro
Bawal
sasabihin.
hiya-hiya.
Ayan. Si Sister BJ sumagot.
Bawal ang hiya, bawal ang hiya.
Sabi ko na nga ba eh. O sige, ganito, mauna na ako. Sige.
Okay.
Ah, siguro ang isa sa mga take out ko for tonight is choose to be grateful. 'Di ba nga, sabi nga doon, kahit maliliit na bagay, ah, umpisahan nating maliliit or i-appreciate yung mga maliliit na bagay, papunta dun sa pag-appreciate ng mga malalaking bagay. Actually, marami akong naisulat eh. Pero siguro yun yung pinaka-highlight sa akin, yung choose to be grateful.
Yes.
So yun, maging
Salamat. Salamat sa
mapagpasalamat tayo.
Salamat sa pag-share. Pao. Ako siguro tatanungin ko si Justin. Biglang nag-pop na sa screen ko.
Oh my
Justin,
God.
meron kang bang i-share?
Um,
Hindi, okay lang kung ano, okay lang.
siguro po, po, ano po,
Hello.
siguro po ako na-remind po ako, hello?
Sige, Justin.
Hello?
Sige, Justin.
Ayun po, na-remind po ako of Jesus' death and yung naranasan niya po na parang si Jesus parang he came here kumbaga he came here sa mundo no, na na parang naranasan niya lahat tong nararanasan din natin and minsan and at some point mas naging worse pa yung naranasan ni Jesus and yung and and with that he understands whatever we are going through. He understands the mental torture that we're going through. He understands just everything, the pain, the suffering. He understands with that. And yung sabi nga po kanina, he aches for you and with you. So, ang ganda lang nun na parang si Lord, naintindihan ka. It doesn't mean that He's God. He doesn't understand you. Kasi po, meron po kasi, di ba po, ang concept, parang karamihan sa mga parang ang nagiging concept ko kasi, God naman yan, parang malakas siya, ganyan, ganyan. Pero, naranasan niya din yung pain. So, ayun po, na ano lang, parang it's comforting to know that. So, yun po yung sa akin.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you Justin sa pag-share mo ng iyong take out for this week. So,
Ako magsishare.
okay, sige
Yes.
po, Pastor. Sige po.
Hello, actually dapat hindi ako magsishare kasi gusto ko bigyan ng chance yung mga iba na mag-share. Pero something that stood out siguro sa sinabi ni Ina was yung sa last parts, yung resilience is not about being unbreakable.
Unbreakable.
Mm-mm.
It's not about being yung being strong or being hard
Mm-mm.
para hindi ka tinatablan.
Oo.
It's about being broken and rising up from that brokenness. And ang ganda kasi nung na picture sa Christian walk natin eh. Kasi that's what sanctification is all about. That's what being changed from glory to glory is all about. Na yung hindi all the time na nandoon ka sa spiritual high, sometimes nasa valley ka, pero what's important is that because of what Christ has done and because of the Holy Spirit being changing you changing you to become the better version of yourself, the person that God has intended you to be, yung it builds yung character mo eh. Ang ganda din yung sinabi kanina ni Justin. Actually, yun yung talk ko bukas dun sa JC Antipolo. So Justin, ikaw na lang mag-talk kasi yun na yun eh. Pero yun yung sinabi ni Justin eh. Yung looking at what Christ has done, yung looking at the life of Christ here. Hindi it wasn't really easy for him even though he's God. It wasn't really easy for him na yes, he is fully God, but at the same time fully man. So if he is fully man, it means that he has yung he has complete faculties na yung naranasan din na sa atin, magutom, malungkot, mabitray, yung mapagbintangan, lokohin, saktan physically, saktan verbally. So all of those things na nangyari kay Jesus, it happened to him, and it nagkaroon siya ng sense sa kanya because if not for these things, if not for his humanity, hindi siya makaka-relate dun sa ating experiences. So sabi nga dun sa isang verse sa Hebrews na we have a high priest who was tempted in every way, yet he did not sin. So ang ganda nung kung meron mang perfect model ng resilience, it was Jesus. Just looking at yung kanyang yung latter part ng kanyang stay on earth, yung bago siya mamatay, diba, a lesser man would have given up carrying that heavy cross with his back shredded, him losing blood. It's virtually, kumbaga talagang it was just really a miracle in itself for him to be able to carry that cross from the start up to the end, yung kanyang back gutay-gutay, he was naked, he was bleeding all over, he was losing blood, pero he did not give up because he knows now whatever he needs to do, he's doing it for everyone, he's doing it for us. So let's follow the example of Jesus, the perfect model of resilience.
Yun, thank
Yun.
you, Pastor. Thank you for sharing. Grabe.
All
Namiss ko
right.
yung,
Ano?
namiss ko yung boses mo, ah.
Tahimik ang lahat.
Nakakamiss ang boses mo, Pastor. Grabe. So, again, guys, I'll be asking for prayers
Yung
kasi
boses
tomorrow.
lang.
Boses lang, boses lang. Hindi. Guys, I'll be asking for your prayers kasi tomorrow mag-speak si Pastor. Saan to, Pastor? Again? Saan yung speak mo tomorrow?
Ay,
Ayaw niya
hindi
mag-share. Ayaw niya mag-share kung siya mag-speak. So,
Ingat.
again,
No, I will be doing a webinar for GCI Antipolo. See, hello. Can you hear me?
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Di, ay, di niyo ako naririnig. Hello guys.
Loud and clear
Yeah.
po.
Loud and
Ay, hindi
clear.
ako naririnig. Okay, hello.
Pastor, naririnig ka po namin.
Can you
Narinig
hear
ka
me?
namin. Yes.
Nawawala.
Hello,
Okay.
naririnig.
So I will be speaking tomorrow for JCI Antipolo. One of our members aboard, si Miss Joy San Pascual. She's the president of JCI Antipolo, and she asked me to speak about mental health. So please pray for me kasi it's going to be my first full-on talk on mental health. Pero ang difference lang kasi dito, it's it's mental health with a spiritual twist. Kasi
Mm.
I've always believed na mental health has something to do, kumbaga may connection siya sa spiritual aspect natin.
Yep.
Yes.
And the title of my message will be Jesus and the Battlefield of the Mind. Okay?
Nice.
So please pray for
Wow.
me. It would be, our audience would be young people, youth.
Oh.
Alam naman natin na there's a high occurrence of mental health disorder in the youth today. Actually, just nung mineasure nila sa COVID, itong pandemic, there's about 3.5 million people who have mental health disorders during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So, ganun karami. And we are blessed because we have a ministry na we are in a kairos moment. This is the perfect time that God has ordained for this ministry we can reach out to different people from all walks of life, not just young and old, male and female, whatever orientation you have. We have the opportunity to share God's word and just to tell you guys that the solution for mental health, the solution for all problems is Jesus. So
Yes.
just continue to pray for me as I speak for tomorrow. And then, yeah, katulad nga ng sinabi ni Ina, there we have a lot of things in store for you guys. Please pray for the core team. Coach Green and I, si Ina, si Amy, si Pau, si Joycey, si Ma'am Joyce, and the other people who are helping us, like si Joseph, si Sarah, just pray for us and sa mga pinag-uusapan, sa mga paplanuhin na talagang the Lord's will would prevail. All right, so Coach Green, so take it away.
Okay, thank you, Pastor, for that small talk, Lord. Again, I'll be asking Miss Pau for our closing prayer.
Okay, so let's come to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for your unwavering love na nag-redeem sa amin mula sa kasalanan. Thank you, God, for carrying our cross, Panginoon. Na ikaw, na bago ka lumapit sa amin, niranas mo muna, Panginoon. Thank you, God, na um, kinuha mo lahat ng bigat na dinanas namin in exchange life sa cross, Panginoon. Na naniniwala kami, Panginoon, na ikaw yung model namin ng resiliency, na ikaw yung paghuhugutan namin ng lakas. Thank you, God, for the gift of eternal life na ibinigay mo sa amin, na inoffer mo sa amin, na sa iyo ah, ang tunay na kalakasan, sa'yo mararanasan namin ang tunay na pagmamahal, na sa'yo walang imposible habang kami po ay nakadikit sa'yo, naka-anchor sa'yo, Panginoon. Turuan mo kami, Panginoon, na mas maging matatag at magtiwala sa'yo ng buong buo. Turuan mo kami na ikaw ang maging kay ikaw ang maging source ng aming hope, na kami ay maging dependent sa iyo, Panginoon, sapagkat sa iyo walang naging imposible. Uh, God, I also pray na bigyan mo kami ng kalakasan sa bawat araw, sa bawat pagsubok. I-redeem mo kami, i-save mo kami, Panginoon. Sabi mo nga sa salita mo, sa pangalan mo may kapangyarihan, sa pangalan mo may kaligtasan. We declare it, Lord, in Jesus' name, na ikaw yung aming maging savior sa bawat struggles na pinagdadaanan namin sa buhay. Right now, Lord, I also pray for protection sa bawat isa sa amin as we sa aming paghihiwa-hiwalay. Cover us, Lord, with your most precious blood and protect also our families, Panginoon. And salamat po, God, sa gabing ito na kami po ay narinyo ulit, na nakarinig ng mga revelations mula sa iyo. Salamat, God, na binibigyan mo kami ng pagkakataon na um, maranasan yung pagmamahal mo, na marinig yung boses mo, na malaman kung gaano mo kami kamahal, Panginoon. Patuloy mo po kaming gamiting daluyan ng iyong pagpapala hindi lamang para sa amin, kundi para sa ibang tao rin. Ikaw po ang may taas sa gabing ito. Amen.
Amen.